Hi, everybody. This is Zia Yusuf. I'm SVP at VMware, and I'm delighted to welcome you to another Ecosystem Reimagined podcast. Today, I'm especially psyched because I have the opportunity to talk to Kalyan Kumar, also known as KK. So that's what we'll be using, who is CTO and Head of Ecosystems for HCL. KK, welcome. Thank you for doing this, and I'm so excited to have a chance to talk to you.
Hey, Sia, thanks for having me here. It's my pleasure, and look forward to this conversation.
So KK, let's dive right into it. Both you and I have the word ecosystem in our titles, and we're passionate about it. And you've been a great proponent of working with companies. What's the kind of your philosophy and approach on building a vibrant ecosystem?
Sia, I think I've always believed, and this has been the ethos also of HCL. Uh, its heritage of 47 years. We just turned 47 last week, right? And that's from our founder with Shiv and his whole vision. He always believed we had so many joint ventures, so many partnerships. We did this because the whole mindset of I versus we. Traditionally, there's been a lot of, in the large company mindset has always been I want to do everything. I want to be the prime.
Right.
I think we collectively realized this a while back in our ethos at different phases that it's about we collectively, what can we do to solve a client's problem or a customer's problem. So our ecosystem model has always been a 360, and our ecosystem has been what can we do for each other? How can I help the partner? How can the partner help me? What can we do for each other? Because we have a very strong engineering heritage, engineering and R&D heritage, a lot of our partnerships have always had an engineering leg, right? Because we were co-developing, building stuff, early stage, risk reward with the partner
Right.
as a customer or partner as a partner, but engineering, risk reward, finding ways to augment each other. That's one. And then how do we take this with the market? What really changed in the ecosystem model is we looked at ecosystems on three buckets. The first ecosystem was partner ecosystem. How do you build and curate a strategic partner ecosystem? The second was this whole ecosystem around the edge, startups and open innovation and working with them. That's a very interesting ecosystem. You have large clients, customers, you know the problems, they're trying to solve small, can you connect them and really create a play? And the third is the whole industry forum around, like we are on the board of, we were in the board of Cloud Foundry Foundation with VMware for a while. Now we sit on the board of CNCF. We are in VEF, a lot of other open Linux Foundation, things like that. It's finding ways to collaborate more in the ecosystem and really this thing. And this whole mindset shift from competition to cooperation, correct? People ask,
Right.
oh, I won't work with them. You don't say that. There is no, you will always find ways to work with. Now, what's happening, interestingly, if you take our software products business, it's building its own ecosystem. And many of their ecosystems compete with our parent organization.
Sure. On the services. Yeah.
But these are independent. They work as independent and as fiercely, and they work with, which means that you can create ecosystems within ecosystems, and you need to create that model. And yeah, this is companies which really move from the model of I to we, they will expand and succeed collectively. And that's the real ethos on which we built our ecosystem model.
Yeah, and I think Gege, that my belief is the word partnership and alliances, which is still a one-to-one kind of relationship. I'm not a huge fan of. The reason I use the word ecosystem is it's about architecting the ecosystem, right? I don't know if you guys do this, but it's literally kind of putting up on a board. Hey, these are the players, these are the strengths. We need to connect company A to company F, and if we do company F, then we can get company C, and then we can come together and so on. That architecting of your ecosystem, you've got ecosystem within ecosystem. I think that's very important. Folks that are still in the alliance, partnership, agreement, press release business, that's not going to move the needle.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the best example of our ecosystem still I say is the original Dell tech ecosystem,
Right.
which is where everything which you did with VMware and Pivotal and a lot of the stuff which later morphed to where VMware is today, correct?
Obviously, the last few years, there was a very significant herd mentality that everything will move to public cloud. And that journey will continue. but it definitely feels like, and certainly VMware has had that perspective now for a while, that the world is hybrid. Customers will make private cloud decisions. Some of those workloads, or a good chunk of the workloads, will go to one public cloud, multiple public clouds. So, from your perspective, is hybrid cloud the model that you're seeing? And the percentages could shift for sure, right? I mean, it's not static.
I would say multi-cloud is clear. Cloud, historically, there's too much of a conversation around destination, where it is cloud. I think the whole shift towards cloud native versus cloud, I think that sense is prevailing, that okay, you need to architect your infrastructure and applications and data. And now the whole focus around data, correct? Everyone thought infrastructure and app, they all forgot the data piece, correct? And I think now suddenly realizing that the most important thing is how do you make data relevant. Hybrid, see, you still have the single largest, in certain industries, the largest transaction processing system still run off modernized new mainframes. They haven't vanished. There is a long tail to get modernization off, but I think some of the transaction processing benchmarks, and sometimes some companies are realizing, hey, okay, I don't need to just modernize this. If it works well, it delivers a TCO, it's reliable, works. Let me do a lot of other things in the front, expand newer applications, rather than trying to, if modernize something. If I need to modernize, yeah, because there is a cost factor in that, I want to do that. But we realize that's still hybrid, correct? There's this mainframe, the distributed. Look at what happened with Kubernetes, correct? Containers. There was this mad rush towards containerization. And everyone thought VMs, oh, no, VMs are old, correct? Why do you want to do VMs? People don't realize that millions of lines of code has been written over years, packaged applications, custom applications, middleware systems. Uh, Virtual machines is, if there's one technology which has spanned 2 decades, really, is the VM technology, right? It just works, right? It's improved. Yeah, containers, great. I think they've been around for a long period of time, but not everything. So we've seen scenarios where people build 20 GB containers, 30 GB containers, and then they have containerized, correct? I think so. I think those things have to, in my sense, cloud decisions are no more standalone decisions. You have to look at your infrastructure strategy, your app strategy, your data strategy, and then you really figure out how really you want to do that. And the reason I personally believe hybrid is here to stay is not because of infrastructure and apps. You can move all your infrastructure, you can move all your apps, correct? You can do lift and shift, all. I think it's the data. Because what's going to happen is data sovereignty, the discipline of data engineering. Data is actually, it's funny enough, it's going the other way, correct? You're trying to centralize compute and architecture on one end, but data is exploding completely on the other way. It's going more closer to the edge. It's going more closer. You will be surprised of the amount of compute we have in our cars these days, correct? It's going down on the edge. So I think, and you still need infrastructure technology inside the car to just take care of those pieces. So I think so that spread is going to, the hybrid will exist. It will morph into different shapes and forms, but it will continue to be there.
So, KK, you also mentioned generative AI. Uh, Obviously, a huge topic, and I personally believe a pretty foundational one. It seems like a pretty big step change. Two questions for you is one, how should CIOs really think about pragmatically adopting AI, and kind of how are you advising them to think about this, right? I mean, that you LLM models, somebody else's, which use cases? I mean, there's such a long litany of choices there. So that's one question. The other piece of this is for HCL yourself. How are you utilizing it? And there's discussions around it kind of making services companies much more effective, efficient. You can reframe how you're building software. So both perspectives, your customers and then yourself.
Yeah, I think the first thing I want to really maybe use this forum to demystify one thing. Somehow, people have this generic belief that generative AI is a superset of AI. Actually, it's a subset of AI. It's an intersection of natural
Mm.
language processing with deep learning, right? It's basically that's the intersection. It works very specifically on language models because it can generate text, audio, code, and things around images, pieces, correct? There's a larger discipline around AI, and whenever you looked at AI, you always use the word data and AI together. So, a couple of things on language models. I think consumer use cases, and I think I always believe that in this current 21st century, consumer technology has led enterprise. If you go back to
Yes.
90s, 2000, people used to say, oh, I used to have better technology at the enterprise. Now you say I have better technology in consumer, and enterprise is trying to catch up. So ChatGPT, Bard, Bing Chat, what AWS is doing with generative inside their own, or Amazon inside their own pieces, Facebook with their own Meta's own language models and all those pieces, correct?
Right.
Consumer adoption is becoming this thing. You're now starting to see that hype of ChatGPT and Bard. Suddenly, it's now being baked in. It's getting into the search. It's getting into your assistant, and slowly it's becoming mainstream in a way. Not more than mainstream, but people are saying that okay, consumer adoption will keep happening, and these language models need a lot of training. And who trains better in consumer world than the consumer itself? Because you're learning from the consumer, correct? And really building up. When you come to the enterprise, the whole discipline of data engineering, correct, comes in. So you have to really bring four things, correct? How do I do data engineering the right way? Classification, annotation. See, we never cared about data classification, annotation, tagging, all those things before, correct? We're all worried about apps and app security, but data tagging, cleaning of data engineering as a pipeline discipline, very, very important. You want to do any kinds of AI. Not everything is generative AI. You still have a lot of metrics data. You have still a lot of structured data, which is going to still be processed through classic machine learning, supervised, unsupervised.
Correct. Yeah,
It's
for
not
sure.
go away, right? The second thing is the discipline of data engineering, the discipline of integrating and orchestrating these apps. You cannot go to build all new apps. You have to infuse these AI and generative AI capabilities into your existing applications. Correct? You're not just going to say, I'm going to build everything new. The third thing is this whole discipline around prompt design and engineering is going to become a very important play. And that's where I think the value of generative is going to come in. It's like a question in the movie, remember iRobot, where there is a self, this thing, and the question was asked, and that image says, it starts to talk, but it says, you have to ask me the right question, correct? I can answer. That's right.
Right. Right.
So it's asking the right question is becoming a very important piece. And the last but not the least, very, very important is responsible AI. Because if you are going to put so much of work around data engineering, building, and using your data and generating responses, how do you make sure you're doing AI ethically in the right way and responsibly, and then making a lot of those factors? So that's the way I really look at it from what we're seeing with customers. A lot of pilots, a lot of POCs. We're running close to 150 of them in our Gen AI labs, working with customers. Then they are discovering very interesting things here. Coming back to the question you asked on hybrid, they're saying, hey, this means that I have data all over the estate. How can I take what I don't need very large language models. I might need language models which are not very large, but they're very contextualized. How can I take that model and train on my data? So there's a lot of questions happening. So we really started to see customers saying, hey, and then there is a big shortage of GPUs today in the sense of availability on
Sure.
timeline.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're all talking about, do I need to get custom chipsets built, or what's my lead time? Do I need to build this on my own? Cost of training a model. So those questions are still coming up with customers. What we're doing, see, if you look at HCLTech overall, we have HCLTech services business, and then we have HCLSoftware, which is our own ISV or a products business. We're seeing some significant we're seeing significant developer velocity increase in our software products business. We're implementing some of this AI pair programming technologies from GitHub.
So are you seeing that today? You can already see the
Yeah,
developer productivity?
25 to 30%, at least in software product development, takeover of some of the mundane tasks, which we're seeing some very interesting use
Mm.
cases for that. See, again, in product development, whether it's used at VMware or any other place, because you build it for a product and then the product is used by customers in a more wider way, but the product is the core, correct? So you are still operating in a very defined product management backlog model. In the application development or in systems development, large complex systems development, the efficiency of the system is going to take some time. because you're
Right.
not generating code for a specific piece. Everything is connected in a very complicated way. So in the large systems, it's still it's good in certain areas. It's actually helping improve younger programmers, younger engineers, getting them acting guardrails for them in a way. And for some of the senior developers and engineers, it's like a task assistant or things like that, like a pair programmer. So we're seeing that. On services side, I think customers, as they are figuring out the rollout of these technologies, they are expecting those skills around integrating and orchestrating intelligent applications, prompt design, prompt engineering, data engineering. A lot of the skills demands are coming in. So obviously, as
Right.
a services industry, you keep pivoting, correct? 20 years back, you're doing certain skills. It's about ability to reskill, retrain, repurpose people and skill sets to support the new. That's the path we are.
I mean, the 25-30% impact on product and engineering, that's pretty significant, and it'll be interesting to see how that evolves. How has your personal leadership style had to change and evolve? I mean, are there leadership muscles that you needed to kind of strengthen in this current environment that you didn't before? What have you had to change in order to continue to be effective?
I don't use the word change as much, Zia, as much people evolve, correct?
Hmm.
See, people are born with a certain characteristic and trait. You are who you are, correct? Sometimes you discover yourselves, and sometimes when you work with other people help discover things which you have. And
Right.
what should always uh, what I've learned is that curiosity is very important, I think, and something which keeps me going all the time is one is, at least what you're good at, and you know what is the things you need to augment yourself with. I apply the ecosystem principle to myself. I said, okay, what are the things which I can do good, or things which I have, and what do I need to surround myself with people and teams which who can complement or who can fill in things which I as an individual can't do. The second thing is, you have to have very uh, clarity. You have to communicate and build trust, correct? I think it's very important, and especially in COVID in the last 2 years, and people are so remote and other aspects. uh, Human touch, I think, if you build the right relationships with people, make them understand why you are doing certain decisions, take them, I think collective wisdom is very, very important. I think that's a very, very
Right.
important thing. And then the third thing which I learned over a period of time is, learning is lifelong. If you are curious, you have to learn every day. And the fourth thing I discovered in the last few, I think I had this for a while, is this whole theory of people have two brains, correct? There is the brain and there is this gut instinct of the gut brain, correct? I think you develop that sense over a period of time. Sometimes you have to be a little bit more, you have to take calculated risks, judgmental risk, but you have to have some, you have to take risk taking ability, but you have to do that with some level of conviction and gut instinct along with logic, correct? I think that's something which I picked up over a period of time. And as you work with teams who are so diverse, so much in different parts of the world, different cultures, you need to bring those aspects in terms of bringing a lot of these things together. You have to continuously learn. That's what I learned.
So, KK, we're coming to the end of this. Three very quick fire questions for you, if I could. One, if you were to start a new company today, on anything, by the way, it doesn't have to be technology, what would you do?
I would do something in sports tech or something around that. I think something I would do, especially in terms of what we can do today. That's an area. And second is, I think there is a very interesting thing which I'm noticing in the market is, there is software and there is services, and there are certain disciplines in the industry where software percentage of, can you do software defined services, or can you do software defined operations? I think there is a unique opportunity in the market. We're trying to do something within our software products business, but I think that's an area which I would really explore. But I think if I want to do something greenfield or something, maybe I'll do something which is bringing these two together. Yep.
Yeah, that I mean, and so look, especially the sports tech with goal line technology, with the technology that now goes into
Yeah.
cricket and tennis, unbelievable. Second question: what is the future personal technology, not enterprise? What's a future personal technology that you would love to get at some point that doesn't exist today necessarily?
So I've been always been fascinated, and I'm also involved a little bit on a couple of the WEF Global Future Councils around quantum computing. I personally think that computing has taken us to where it is today, but there are so many answers. I think we built a mathematical computer. Our computer was a math computer, a computer which did math stuff, kind of algos. We programmed it. And obviously AI, a lot of things. There is so much for us which we don't know: climate, personalized medicine, materials, space, new frontiers. I think think of a computer created using physics, chemistry, or biology principles, and I think that's where quantum computing is ability to use the properties of some of what's around the nature. We want to organize things, Zia, all the time, but the world isn't organized. It's fuzzy. It's got spooky motions happening. It's got its own. What we see physically is always organized, but what's below it is completely on a different motion. I think the quantum computing is the one single, personally, I think it'll fundamentally change how we really do things.
Final question here, KK. If you were to pick a one superpower that you'd like to have, what would you pick?
I think this one thing which always worries me, or I think people not, is sustainability in true sense. And the reason for that, Zia, is anything you do today, climate, or all of these things, it's a one-way street, correct? And I think it's such an important thing that if we can do things, and and that superpower could be to really supercharge sustainability or things around that.
Hmm.
And that means it will help solve climate, waste, and so many other things, correct? Uh, I think that is what I'd really say, because it's so important that resources in the planet are fixed. What where we live is quite fixed, and it's not about us, but it's about the future generations.
That's awesome. Yeah, this is probably the first summer that most people that either didn't believe in or didn't take notice of climate change really woke up, both because of the extreme heat, but also of different climate phenomena. KK, it's as I expected. This was an absolute delight. Love the way you think. Love the curiosity and connecting the dots. Thank you so much for spending a few moments with us today. Super excited about what VMware and HCL continue to do in the future. So thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you, Zia. Thanks for the opportunity. Always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks.